That's a really peppy song for this 47-9 loss. I'm Kevin Turner, live at AT&T Stadium. We have John Machota and Saad Youssef from The Athletic, and also Kent Garrison producing this thing. John, we will start with you. Temperament after the game from owner. What would you say? Because that was bad.
Very, very angry birthday boy. Very angry. Humbling. Called it, I think, a stunner. He seemed at a loss for words, which is pretty difficult for him to do. And I get it. He should be. That was awful. I think the biggest thing for me while I'm watching unfold is, yeah, we knew that they were going to be somewhat limited without Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence and Marshawn Nealon and no Jerron Bland, you find out. And then, there's no Cooks. And, I mean, yeah, you knew that. But, let's not act like this was some 10-point, 15-point spread. I think right before kickoff, the Cowboys were a 4-point underdog, I don't see. Hey, Bobby Belt.
Hey, Bobby.
I just don't get how you can be that bad. But it also just kind of shows you that there's no reason you should think that this team is going to all of a sudden get it together, get hot, and forget win the division, but make the playoffs and this be the year that they finally make a deep playoff run. There's a far greater chance that the wheels just completely fall off and this thing gets ugly than this thing getting fixed and this train is just rolling into January. Is kind of being sold to us about the whole, whether you talk about the saving Zeke or, we're going to get these guys back from injury later on in the year. It's no, what about right now? This isn't week 1 anymore. The CD Dak connection, that should be way better than it is. There's just so many little things that just make you think it's not really going to be that much better. Will it be as bad as we saw today? Probably not. But, I mean, embarrassing is the only way to describe this game. And embarrassing is really the only way to describe the way the Dallas Cowboys have played the last 4 times they've taken the field here at AT&T Stadium. It's embarrassing. They should not be getting blown out, and these games are already decided at halftime. I mean, there's just no excuse for it.
Yeah, Saad, I mean, what'd you see out there today? Because, it's all pretty clear, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think the offense for me is the biggest thing. It's you expected the defense to be limited. You expected there to be some problems there, but this is why you have two of the 3 highest paid players in the entire NFL on the offensive side, is to be able to keep up in a shootout like this. Your head coach is the play caller. Your head coach is an offensive guy. I mean, this, to me, it sounds really crazy to say because Detroit hung 47 at the beginning of the fourth quarter, but this is on the offense because, look, I'm not all on the momentum thing and all that stuff, but Dak just cannot throw that interception there in the first quarter. Detroit already went down and scored so easily. You can't come back and you're driving down the field and you're in the red zone and you throw that interception. And look, narratives happen because of bottom line results. And last week, if Jalen Tolbert doesn't make the play of his life and, have that fantastic catch on the last play for them, we're probably talking about Dak's red zone problems last week when he threw an interception in the red zone last week, when he held on to the ball too long and fumbled last week in the red zone. And so when you put the defense behind like that so quickly, to me, it's one of the craziest things for me to say because they did score 47, but it's on the offense, and that's a disappointing thing.
Oh, I don't think that's that crazy for you to say that. I mean, the other factor in this is that, I know this Lions team pretty well, and I'm going to tell you this right now. They're not the 85 Bears on defense. They're good on defense, but they're not to hold you to 3 field goals. They're not that type of a defense. And then on top of it, they lose Aiden Hutchinson, and even when he's gone, the best defensive football player through the first 5-6 weeks of this season, when he's gone, it's not like all of a sudden the offense is okay, now we're going to start to click. It's kind of like whoever was out there was going to shut them down. It's the opponent obviously matters. The Lions are very good, and that's why they blew them out. But at the same time, with just how bad the Cowboys played, I don't see them beating very many teams with the way they played today. And with them going into the bye week next week, and I don't know, I don't understand how anybody can feel positive about this team. It just seems like it's headed in a very, very bad direction. Like I said, I think the chances of it getting really ugly are far greater right now than it all of a sudden having this storybook ending.
It's like we were talking about last week. It was so hard to score down there at the 1 yard line. It was so hard to score, and it ended up being that fourth down play. But even after the Dak interception, it was 10-3 because the defense held them to a field goal. They got out, and then that next drive, that's where they had the big throwback pass to Jake Ferguson, and he couldn't come up with it. It was a double coverage down the field, and then the next play was the play where Schoonmaker and Jalen Brooks kind of run into each other and some terrible spacing, and whatever, you punt the ball, then the flea flicker happens at 17-3. Like, it doesn't feel like anything is open, hardly ever. And it doesn't feel like it's evolving and changing in a positive direction, like you said.
And what makes it look worse is when that throwback to Ferguson would be like your trick play, I guess, and they're just running the wildest stuff over on the other side of the ball, and Ben Johnson just putting on a clinic over there, which makes it look even worse. I mean, they're toying with you, just having fun, like you're an 0-17 type club, and they're whatever Tom Brady's best team was with in New England. And I just don't see that big of a difference there. And I guess the other part I should mention too is that did anybody see that game like that? Okay, so you can put Lawrence and Micah, Cooks, Nealon, all of them, make them available. Like, do you think the Lions are losing that game? Like,
no.
Maybe it's within 2 touchdowns, but we've seen what this run defense, we've seen what these first halves have looked like with most of those guys out there. So it's hard for me not to believe that something similar still wouldn't have happened even with those guys, and that's very concerning.
Yeah, and also on the defensive side of things, I turned to John, I don't know, I think in the first quarter, and I was like, I feel like I'm watching the Detroit Lions run an OTA practice. Like, that's how the offense felt. It felt like you're just going out there, running through the motions on defense. I mean, the holes were wide open. The tackling was terrible. And look, we can talk about, David Montgomery and the way that he was breaking tackles, but I'm talking about your best defensive player right now on the field making business decisions that would embarrass the worst of them. And I think, when you have that going on from the guy who's supposed to be the pillar of your defense, without Micah, without Lawrence, without Eric Kendricks, without Marshawn Nealon, all those guys, I mean, it just sets a bad tone. It's a bad flavor for, how this limited defense already should be playing.
And we have issues all across the board, but it was like a day because of the defensive injuries where you were almost willing to give the defense a free pass. The offense had to do everything in its power to keep the game reasonable. I think it almost I couldn't believe the Vegas line was 3 or 3.5 or whatever it ended up being. That was wild to me. But
even when you say
Dak,
KT, when you
paid
say
CD,
right? But even when you say the offense, though, it's not even the offense. It was the passing game had to do everything because everybody knows the running game ain't going to get you anything. So it's the passing game has to be the one that keeps up with everything.
And he used I actually kind of liked most of what McCarthy said after the game, though. I mean, he was accountable, and I actually liked a lot of things. But he did say one thing. He said, well, once the balance gets out of whack. And I was like, dude, the balance could have been way better if that's what you were going for because the game wasn't out of hand yet, and you were still throwing on every play. I think the first 20 plays, I think we had 5 carries at that point, which is, not bad. But Zeke was getting a lot of those carries. I think Rico Dowdle had 2 touches. In those 21, coming off a decent game, you would think Rico would get that, but I don't know. There are things that we lay at Jerry's feet, whatever, the front office, and there are things that specifically go with Mike. I just want to give you guys a couple of things from the TV, just watching it on TV. The first thing that they opened up with on the broadcast, Tom Brady is raving about Ben Johnson. Nothing about Dan Campbell, nothing about the Lions. It was really about Ben Johnson. And at one point in the second half, Tom Brady basically said, you don't see guys running open like you do on the other side of the ball. And it just made me go, would they have hired Ben Johnson last year if they would have made the move to Mike? And you can make your mind go to those places. But the truth is that guy who's having fun and doing whatever he can. And I know you're going to hear, well, they only got one weapon on offense. So he's going to get taken away. I think he could get guys open because I don't know. Tim Patrick doesn't normally scare me. But he does in that offense,
the other part, though, too, is that it's not like you're getting Ben Johnson just to be your OC. You're getting him as your head coach, and he's never been a head coach before. So I do think that there's a little bit of gray area that comes with that. That let's say he's coaching this team right now. How is he going to handle when things just completely start to fray and they're not working on defense and they can't stop the run? Like maybe it'd be great. Hey, maybe he's the next Bill Belichick. I don't know, but I'm just saying that he would be stepping into a way bigger seat than he is right now.
Sure. No, he may be a guy who doesn't like to talk to the press at all, and who knows? Like I don't know. There could be a lot of things there that go with it, but it was just interesting to me. Like the first thing Tom Brady said on the national broadcast, game of the week. How many teams are they talking about the play caller or offensive coordinator? Like usually not. Now a lot of these teams, the head coach is the play caller, and that it's not. This is not evolving, and that's the problem. The interception. Dak, I got a stat from our friend Mike Soroy the other day. Dak, and against the spreads, gamblers and all that stuff, whatever, 19-33 against the spread against winning teams. And that ranks since 2003, 263rd out of 266 quarterbacks.
Is that good?
Football's a team sport, but I officially am opening the door for big game Dak to be a narrative. And I don't love that, but, I've ran from that narrative for a long time, but that's a damning number right there. They don't beat good teams. They don't. They beat the Giants. They beat the Steelers. They don't beat good teams.
Yeah, and that's also where when we talk about the home road disparity this year, I mean, they could easily be 3-0 at home if the home games are Browns, Giants, Steelers, and they'd probably still be 0-3 on the road. I mean, maybe New Orleans, I don't know, but they're definitely losing in Baltimore and they're definitely losing in Detroit. So we can talk about the home road disparity too, but the bottom line is, to your point, KT, they don't beat good teams. You can play them at home, on the road, on Mars, in another universe. They just don't beat good teams.
Yeah, and I just feel like I have to say this here. I know it might sound obvious, but like we're not just talking about 3 losses. Like 2 teams played the game. This team won. This team lost. Now, those losses are embarrassments. They did not lose to the Lions today on a last-second play, and they just beat them out on the fourth and goal from the 2, and Goff completed the pass, and the Lions left victorious. No, they destroyed you. You were pummeled. It was embarrassing. It was over at halftime, just like against the Saints, just like against the Ravens. Like, it's not just losses. It's embarrassing losses.
Yeah, and real quick, I just want to put out a stat that I just saw just now from our friend David Hellman.
We can't
Cowboys,
trust him.
Cowboys allowed 127 points in 8 regular season home games last year. 127 in 8. They've allowed 119 in 3 this year. That's crazy. They've allowed that's 5 more games, and it took about the same. I mean, that's insane.
What happened before that Green Bay game, man? Like, what? Did everybody go out and party the night before? Was there a fight among star players? Somebody.
It's
never mind. Everyone
thought the Jimmy Johnson curse was gonna end like in one way, right? And it ended up just spiraling the Cowboys at home. Jimmy Johnson's name goes in at halftime of the Detroit game, and then after that, they haven't won a game at home after that game.
And they haven't been close in any of them.
No.
Yeah. Let's welcome in Kent Garrison here. Kent, you've got a hypothetical for us. Hit us.
Crazy NFL hypothetical, boys. Went through my mind today during the Cowboys game, and it's gone through my mind several times this season with some blowouts. Let me know what you guys think of this. Think if it'll improve the product on the field. Contracts can be what they are. Salary cap can be what it is. But you don't get your game check unless you win.
Now that is interesting. Why are you saying that they quit?
No, I'm just wondering how, if it gets to that point, 47-9, if you're Dallas and you're the defense and I'm still getting my check on Tuesday anyway. This doesn't really matter in the big picture in my life, that type of thing. I just wonder league wide what it would do if you only get paid the next week if you win.
I mean, it's tough for that scenario just because for all of these home losses, these last 4, whether you were going to get a check if you win or not, like even in the fourth quarter, you still wouldn't have got no effort because they were nowhere near close enough to win those games anyway. So it's not like guys would be like, no, we got to keep grinding this thing out because we got a chance to win and get a game check. No, these games are over at halftime. So that's one reason in these particular cases, I don't know how much of an effect it would have just because these games just haven't been close. Like, they haven't really come down to, I guess the Ravens one, you mix in a watermelon kick and maybe almost had another one. And then all of a sudden that game's a little bit closer than it should have been. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, they weren't close in really any of these games. And so that's the only reason why I don't know how much the game check thing would factor in.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think it's probably because the media is allowed in the locker room. I think if they stop that, I think everything will just start rolling and they'll just parade, Super Bowl, parade, Super Bowl. But yeah.
That's true.
And the tours.
You media guys are always.
Yeah, the tours too. You got to stop the tours. You got to stop Jerry talking outside the locker room. Like that was the thing. Like today, like when I was watching the game, I was like, man, they're just getting bludgeoned right now. Man, it's probably because Jerry's going to talk outside the locker room after the game. That's why they're getting destroyed. That's what it is. I just wish somebody would hold him accountable out there. Hold him accountable, like get in his face and force him to trade for Max Crosby. And yes, hold him accountable. That's why they're losing these games.
Doesn't this type of loss, though, just show kind of where the Cowboys are in the big picture? You want to compete with the big dogs, you got to compete with the big dogs. The Lions are a big dog now in the NFC, and Dallas doesn't look that way.
No, they don't. You're and it's crazy too because again, we're going back to these 4 home games, going back to the Green Bay loss in the playoffs. They're so lopsided, and it's not like the early 90s with the Cowboys who were just like, yeah, they get to the Super Bowl. They're clearly the better team. Like, there's so much more parity now. Like, you shouldn't be getting blown out. Like, just look at these scores across the league every week. Like, there's all kinds of, what we would call upsets, but they're really not upsets because the whole league's like kind of wide open. So I even have enough room for like a blowout here and there. But 4 consecutive home games blown out, like, that's bigger than just talent. There's more issues than just, hey, you know what? They pay their guys too. And we just had a bad game, but we're going to practice this week and we have a bye week and we're going to come back recharged. Like, really? Like, who's really buying that?
Yeah. And also, like, I'm usually someone that, like, I'm number 1 on the list of I hate the people, or I hate the narrative. I hate when people say, I hate when people say they didn't want it bad enough. They didn't try hard enough.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when your superstar cornerback is trying harder to avoid tackling the player that he's supposed to tackle, that's alarming.
Would he have tried harder if he knew he would get paid on Tuesday if they win? That's what I'm saying.
Maybe on one of the 10 times that he didn't. I mean,
it's
in the
first
look,
half, man. That's a bad look.
It is, and it is reminiscent of I'm sure Mike Jenkins' name will get thrown around and all that stuff because somehow that's his Cowboys legacy is helping get Wade fired. But like there was a span, just to play devil's avocado here, there was a span in that game in the third quarter where Aiden Hutchinson gets hurt, Dak dings his hand on a helmet, Dak gets hit, Dak runs for 3 yards and takes a hit without sliding fully, and then Carlton Davis gets kicked in the face by a shoe because his helmet came off, where I went, let's just go ahead and just shut this thing down. Let's go ahead and get out of here. Like, what is the point? Because it got real dangerous there for a minute.
Yeah, it really did. That was pretty depressing during that 10 minutes or so that it took to get the air cast on Aiden Hutchinson, get him, on the cart, get him to the ambulance and all that. Like, that really took the wind out of the sails of, I feel like, everybody in the stadium. And I don't know. I know I'm just beating this to death, but I'm blown away that these home games have been so lopsided like that. I just can't put that on. Well, they just aren't practicing hard enough, or they're not trying hard enough. Like, there's got to be more to it, whether it's the players not buying into the coaching or the coaches not coaching, or I don't know, like they're coaching in a way that it's outdated, that the players don't like it, and it's not fun for them or whatever. I don't know, but there's some serious issues here that I just don't see, like one bye week or one win, Let's say even
Even
if
if it's San Francisco?
Yeah, I don't think that fixes it. I don't.
See, I think the fan base would be back if you beat
Well,
San
the fan
Francisco.
base might be, but why would you think okay, so they win at San Francisco? Like, you think they're going to win their next home game? The next home game could be against
the Eagles,
Philadelphia.
Still winnable.
Lose. And I probably would pick the Eagles.
Yeah. By the way, real quick on that note, here's the upcoming schedule for the Cowboys after the bye week. They're at San Francisco. They're at Atlanta, home against the Eagles, home against the Houston Texans, and then at Washington. I could see 1-4 in that. Like, I could see that being 1-4.
Yeah.
I don't think they go 0-5, but I think 1-4 is realistic. And if I'm picking, I'm probably picking 2-3.
It's starting to sound like you don't think they'll get back to 12 wins.
I don't.
If I drank enough, I could get you to where that I could tell you that in those games. Let me use their next 6 games, Sod, just so I can include a Giants game in there. If I drank enough, I could tell you that they could go 3-3 in that stretch and be 6-6 and still on the cusp in the hunt, right where you want to be, playing your best ball at the end of the year.
Oh,
hanging around the rim.
I love a good hanging around the rim story.
Getting our guys back, getting healthy. Okay. Hey, John, ascending, climbing the mountain. This is our year. And if the media would understand that, then we would have a chance. But you guys.
All Texas right. Carter wants to know what's better for our jobs if the Cowboys win or lose. Definitely if they win.
Yeah, for sure.
Of course.
Players are easier to deal with. It's just more fun to write stories about winning teams. I don't know.
Real quick, we talk about like a lot of stuff, that fan conduct and stuff that happens around the stadium and things like that. I don't know if you guys have seen the clip of the Cowboys fan who's throwing up, and then you have a Lions fan in a David Montgomery jersey just grittying right across, and it is just it is just such an encapsulation of the game today, and it is wild.
Oh, dude, yep, that's it. That's it.
He was grittying like through the vomit.
No, just right. It was a woman who was throwing up, and he was just gritting right in front.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
It was bad.
Well, look, we got a bye week. All right, so we'll calm down. Maybe we'll have an episode this week. I'm not sure. We'll discuss with that. So thank you all for following us and subscribing to the podcast on Apple and Spotify, and also along in the Discord. We had scoregami today, so me and John don't owe anyone any money. No one predicted 47-9. As John and I are pretty broke after last week. But we will catch up with you next time. John, Sod will be checking out what you guys write from this thing, and safe travels going home on the roads here from AT&T Stadium. Thank you as always for your time. Kent, thank you for throwing it together. And we will see everyone next time on the One Star Cowboys podcast. Goodbye.